action we had gotten on the Phillies prior to this official move today. I mean, at one point they were like 18-1 just back towards the middle of January. So we moved. They were already at 12. We moved them down to 11 after the signing. Season win, same thing. They had bet the Phillies up a ton, already up to like 88. So we just moved it up to like 89 over minus juice. So the adjustments kind of had already come in prior to this official signing.
The perception is that the early money on baseball props is usually sharper money. Now, whether that's accurate or not, who knows? But that's the perception. But that the late money, especially on over and under win totals and to bet the World Series or a pennant, will come in the weekend before the games begin. So do you expect the Phillies to get very public as we get closer to the regular season?
Yeah, that's true. As soon as we come out with like the season wins and some of the season-long props, the sharp guys bet them right away. With the exception of the teams you would expect, like the Yankees and the Cubs and the real public-y teams, those really it's only going to be sharp action on the rest of the team until it gets closer. So I really think that's going to be the case with the Phillies. Obviously, there's a lot of people from Philadelphia that either live here or will be coming out here, especially during March Madness time, which is when we really see a spike in the people betting the baseball stuff. So I really expect a lot of Phillies action. So it's 11-1 now, and I think that that's a good price, only because people are going to bet it, and it's going to end up being like 8 or 9-1 probably in about a month. Not necessarily saying it's a good price because they're going to win, but it's a good price considering where the market is probably going to go.
So Dave and I both agree that if you're close to winning a World Series or close to competing for a World Series, it's appropriate to make moves to get there. That being said, $330 million, 13 years fully guaranteed. What's your take on the deal? Do you think it makes the Phillies appreciably better?
Well, I'll tell you what's interesting about it is kind of answer that question. I was looking at the odds to win the NL East, right? And even after the Harper move, the Nats and the Braves are at plus 250, and the Phils are at plus 260. Mets 9-1, and obviously the Marlins are a million.
Yeah, the Marlins are
one.
Whatever price you want, we'll give it to you.
The Marlins are going to win as many division titles as the Orioles will this year.
Yeah, but I mean, I heard you guys mention in that, like, listen, you know that towards the end of the back end of this deal, Harper's going to have been a little bit. His play will deteriorate, and they're going to have all this money on the books, kind of like Albert Pujols 2.0. And so you really have like a 4 or 5 year window with Harper in his prime.
Yeah.
And the division is not easy. I mean, there are some good teams in the division, so they really have to win one. So, I mean, if they win one World Series in 13 years, is it a successful contract? I don't know.
Well, you got to get one at least.
Sure, get the first one, and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of guys who've, he's not at the end of a 13-year contract, but it looks like he's been on the end of a 23-year contract last couple of years. Eli Manning is going to be back again as quarterback of the Giants. You're a New York guy. I mean, what's your reaction to this? Why? I mean, I'm not a Giants fan. I don't care. But I'm looking at it and saying, why? You're not going to win with him. Put somebody else out there.
Yeah, I mean, this is 6-10, 7-9, right? And you're going to end up winning enough games to not get a top 5 pick, but losing enough to not make the playoffs. That's where the Giants have been, with the exception of the one awful year a few years ago with all the injuries when they had the second pick. But I do think that it's a tough spot because they're a year behind. So, like, if they would have taken, the Darnold player or whoever last year, then that player would be starting this year because they would have had last year to, learn from Eli. That player would have been starting this year, and then you would have still had a top 5 pick to then take another player. But instead they went the Barkley route, and now you're 2 years behind because you want Eli to play this year, and as you said, they're going to win 5 or 6 or whatever games, and then they're going to have next year with Barkley in year 3 when, by the way, he's only on a 4-year contract, and then you're going to have the quarterback in his first year starting. So you're almost like a year behind just because you want to ride out Eli for one more year. It didn't make sense, and I think it was all – I don't know if they were totally enamored with Barkley and they had to do it, but it really should have been last year. So they're just kind of a year behind schedule, which is disappointing because, you're going to end up having a situation where Odell makes $1 zillion. You're going to have to pay Barkley, so there's not much room on the salary cap. So I see this being like a middling 7 to 9 win team for many years to come.
Yeah, do you think it's an organizational problem with the Giants? And if so, do you affect the odds accordingly?
Yeah, I think the problem that you have with them is that it's kind of what the Broncos are dealing with now. Instead of just bottoming out, you keep trying to put on Band-Aids, Case Keenum, Joe Flacco, and what does that do? It gets you, 7, 8, or 9 wins, and we know what that does in the NFL. For the Giants, you're looking at the Eagles, who are going to be good, a young team. The Cowboys are another good young team. It's going to be tough So you definitely have to adjust the futures because the division does them no favors. But the problem is the Giants are so public-y that people will bet them no matter what. So you can't put up too high of a price.
You know what the irony here, though, in a sense, the twist, is that there's another New York team that I think is going about it the right way, and they're actually getting some decent results now, at least in terms of tremendous effort on a nightly basis, and that's the Rangers. I mean, the Rangers, they made no bones about it. They actually came out publicly and said, we are going to do a complete rebuild.
Yeah, they sent a letter to the fans.
Yes. And you know what? The fans are pretty happy with them right now because even though they're not going to make the playoffs, man, I'm telling you, this team skates its ass off on a nightly basis, and some of these young players look like real keepers for the future.
Yeah, I think they're playing so hard for new coach David Quinn, which is nice to see. And I think the fact that Henrik Lundqvist remains in that locker room, they just want to win for him because he's such like a father figure and such a respected player. So they're going to play hard every night. Their three best defensemen is Brady Shea, Pionk, and D'Angelo are all 23 years old. Like for Vegas Knights fans, that's like basically having three Shea Theodores on great contracts at the age of 23 at the same time. So that's a good way to build your team from kind of that side in. So I do think good things are to come for the Rangers in the future, and they rebuilt the right way, which is you just kind of tear it down and start from scratch.
Behind the counter time, and we'll start in the NHL with tonight's game at T-Mobile as the Florida Panthers are in town to face the Golden Knights. And before we get into the betting action here, we should find out, because this really is the key aspect of the handicap of this game. Will Jason Simbal be in attendance? Because when you are, the team is awful.
I am either 1-6 or 1-7. Don't quote me, but it's not good. And I have good news if you like betting an underdog, and bad news if you like the Knights, because I will be in attendance this evening.
That's not good.
So handicap accordingly.
People are racing to their phones right now to get their CG mobile app and bet the Panthers. Actually, the odd thing is I had considered the Panthers this morning, but this is why you wait for confirmed goalies. I thought Florida was going to start the rookie prospect they've called up. They're not. They're going with Luongo, who's like 60, and he's playing his third game in 4 nights. I don't know about that. And I like the fact the Knights are going with Subban tonight. He's really good at home. I mean, he's 10-1 lifetime at home. And, this saves Fleury for the road game tomorrow. I think it's a good move by Gallant, and I actually have flipped my opinion now, and I think the Knights will win tonight.
Yeah, I think Subban's statistically been better than Fleury, when you the last probably month of the season, and then you obviously want Subban to go at home. So this line actually opened where we took a sharp bet on the Panthers, believe it or not. The Knights at one point were minus 220. Panthers were plus 185. We took the sharp bet at that price, and we moved it down to Knights minus 200, Panthers plus 175, and that's kind of been where it is. So even despite the one limit bet that we took on the underdog, there's been more Knights money. This is going to be the type of game where, as always, if the Knights win by a goal or lose, we'll be happy. So since I'll be in attendance, I'll be rooting them to win by 1 goal.
And break that 1-7 skid.
Exactly, yeah. I need some luck going against me.
Exactly. Let's talk a little NBA behind the counter tonight. Wolves and Pacers. What are you seeing for that game?
Yeah, this is a good one. The number now is Pacers minus 3. The line's moved a little bit. The dog money had come early. The T-Wolves were a 4-point dog a little bit earlier. They were 3.5 when the line opened this morning. So it's down to 3. We did take one sharp bet on the T-Wolves plus the 3.5, and that's why I moved.
Let's go to the Jazz and Nuggets. Then, look, this is always a good rivalry, and because these two teams are in the same neighborhood, so to speak, in the NBA. Should be a good battle tonight.
Yeah, game is shot all the way up to Denver minus 7. Started this morning at 5 or 6, depending where you look. It went all the way up to 7. I saw some books open it yesterday at 3.5, which was quite a bit lower. So really, the sharp guys are on the Nuggets. Public figures to bet the Nuggets as well. Interesting on this one, though, the one thing is that we've taken some sharp money on the under, and it's a big number at 224.5.
Sounds like you'll be a fan of the Utah Jazz this evening. Philadelphia and Oklahoma City, the other national TV game tonight, and this is one where both teams have impactful injuries. What's the action down at CG?
Yeah, this one moved quite a bit. I think Paul George is out, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So that's part of the reason why. So the number now is Thunder minus 4. If you were really kind of on top of things, you could have gotten 8 with the Sixers, 7.5 this morning, and it's kind of trickled down with the George news. So it's 4 now. The majority of the action is going to be on the 76ers, and even with Paul George out and the number has been adjusted accordingly, they still bet Philly, even though the number has the George factor into it.
We'll speed through a few college games in a moment, but before we do that, let's talk about what's really coming up in college basketball. Talk about one of the great events in March Madness. It's the Hoops and Hops at the Cosmopolitan.
Yeah, Hoops and Hops is the best party. We talk about it all the time. They have this giant, I don't know how big it is, but it's massive ballroom. It's set up with, 50 TVs around projector screens just going around the perimeter of the room. There's bars all over the place. There's actually hardwood basketball floors in the place where you can shoot hoops while you watch these games. Food is really, really good. You can buy tickets for the 3-day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or just the solo day tickets. So I highly recommend it. Go to the Cosmopolitan's website to check it out.
Let's check some quick colleges. Xavier and St. John's. Injuries on both sides in this game.
Yeah, game's a solid 5 all day, and it just moved down to 4. So Xavier getting some love from the bettors there. I think they're on a 4 or 5 game win streak, if I'm not mistaken. They've looked pretty good here towards the end of the season. St. John's is probably sitting on that 9, 10, 11 seed line, give or take. So a few bad losses, especially as a favorite, could really hurt them here as we go towards the tournament.
My Michigan Wolverines got their rear ends handed to them over the weekend by Michigan State. The Spartans went in a Chrysler and pretty much played a dominant second half in that ballgame. Clearly the better of these two teams. Looking to bounce back tonight at home against Nebraska. What are you seeing for this line?
Yeah, we got a little pros versus Joes thing going on here. First time I've said that today, where the sharp guys have taken the points with Nebraska. It was 12. They took 12. They took 11.5, which is why it's down to 11. But the public, not surprisingly, loves the Wolverines in the bounce back spot here. So a little pros versus Joes with this one.
This used to be a big betting rivalry. I'm going to say USC and UCLA probably not getting all that much volume tonight.
No, not a lot at all. The number's 4. UCLA is a home favorite of -4, and it's kind of been at 4 pretty much all day. It was 3.5 for a tiny bit, but solid 4, pretty good two-way action. More people are on USC in this one, but again, UCLA is so Jekyll and Hyde with what they've been this year. It's hard to play them either way.
Are you seeing a noticeable decrease in Pac-12 betting action? Games like Arizona, Oregon State, or Arizona State, Oregon, do those get the handle that they would have 2 years, 5 years, 10 years ago? Or because the conference is so far down this year, is it just very little?
It has been hurting, and I think obviously the conference is far down. I mean, it could be a 1-2 bid league. But I think also, besides Washington, who's 13-1 in conference play, everybody's got between 6 and 10 wins, except for, Cal, who's terrible. But you have all these teams, and nobody can get on a good streak. Nobody can win a bunch in a row, and it causes people confusion, and nobody can cash tickets with the same public-y teams, and that's part of the reason why they're staying away from it.
Nevertheless, it looks like we are seeing somewhat one-sided action on the Arizona-Oregon State game.
Yeah, they are all over Oregon State in this one. Arizona is kind of a mess at this point, with what's been going on with the program there. So the money on Oregon State here, maybe an outside shot to make the tournament if they can finish the season unbeaten and win a couple games in the Pac-12 tournament.
And it seems like there's been a little bit of money on Oregon as well, even though at times this year the Sun Devils have looked deserving of a bid. They haven't so much lately.
Yeah, the number here is Oregon -3 at home. The line actually was 1.5. That's where it opened yesterday. Came in this morning at 2.5. So some action on Oregon at home to get it up to -3. So you kind of have the spot here with those 3 Pac-12 games we just mentioned with kind of short favorites with 4 and 3s. So you figure that we're going to need at least one of those dogs to win outright, or a lot of those late parlays are going to cash at the book.
One thing that every one of our listeners would do right now, and those of us sitting and doing the show as well, if somebody were to walk up to us and just hand us $68, we would take the $68. Well, CG is about to hand you $68.
Yeah, that's true. We've got a promo going on for new customers. So if you've never been a customer of ours, come out to any one of our sports books and sign up for an account. And when you do it, we'll match it up to $68. You can ask about the specific rules and stuff when you get there, but it's pretty cool. So it's a dollar for dollar match, $68 as we get towards the field of 68.
Great info as always, Jason. We always love this spot. We'll do it again next Thursday.
Thanks, guys. Talk next week.
Jason Simbal. Follow him on Twitter at JSimbal. We'll come back. We will take our Joe's Angle of the Day, or give you our Joe's Angle of the Day, and then we'll get to today's Major League Baseball team preview. It's on the possibly rising Cincinnati Reds.
The Las Vegas Sportsline. Time to start planning for the 2019 swim season. Call B&D Pool Plastering and remodel your tired-looking pool. With B&D's 2019 swim season pricing, beat the rush. For a free estimate, call B&D Pool Plastering, 702-644-8980.
And with John Lyons from Lyons Physical Therapy and